Good evening, people. Leon is the name. I'm going to discuss you about the Grocom model. Okay. Now let me give you a little bit of background of myself. Besides, I was born in Malmesbury, did a BA degree at UWC and honors in urban and development geography part-time. I wanted to become an urban planner. My parents never had money, and where would I have gotten a 4-year bursary? Okay. I became a teacher, became a high school principal at the age of 29. I brought principals of different races together in the country. For my sins, I managed 2 national research projects for education, the educational management in the Western Cape on behalf of the Ministers' Reference Group. I also, with UWC, did the research for the transformation, non-transformation in the insurance sector, for which I was victimized, lost 8 million, actually 50 million, that's for another story. Okay, so that's a little bit of me. Now in November 2002, I brought brokers of various races together after I walked out of the medical aid because they were corrupt. And the words fell out of my mouth to start a Black Alexander Forbes. But our people were not ready. Okay. So I then started a training company in the insurance, and I was regarded as the best trainer in South Africa without insurance training. And I developed a manual, Grocom induction training, visionary training to create a more equal society. Now, my model, the front page is aptly said, in the pan from the sea, in the pan and the pot from the farm. And there's a reason for that. I met the great Raymond Ackerman 4 times, and through him his son Gareth. And through him, 2 years ago, I became a member of the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa. So our plan is to set up 500 co-branded or supermarkets, but that is actually taking off faster. I was contacted via LinkedIn by a guy. He's coming to meet me on the 18th of April for 2 franchises in the northern suburbs of Cape Town. Now I read extremely deeply, and there's some of my books, probably over 100. 3 good books is one on cultural evolution that explains why the world is in the situation what it is. One by Jim Collins, How the Mighty Fall and Never Give Up. Now it's so apt, in 2014, I used to pick up 5-cent pieces and 10-cent pieces in the road to get a 4 rand to buy airtime to meet a CEO of an insurance company in Johannesburg. Then I had to battle for plane fare, but I got there. And then a book that I pick up, The Great Depression of 1990 by Dr. Ravi Batra. I read extremely deeply. And then for my sins, I was called in, and the Reserve Bank on an online meeting asked me not to set up a co-op bank but a mutual bank. In 2014 I developed a medical aid that's going to destroy all these corrupt extractive medical aids. We've got a funeral product up to 100,000, 30% commission and reinsurance commission. I'm clear. I don't work as a servant for these white companies. I want the same level of contract and even better. I'm a member of the Consumer Goods Council. I said I'm going to Summit. I've got a short-term product via Old Mutual Insure, 25%. Now here I'm sitting, we're doing a video that's going to be dispersed to 5 million people in South Africa, and it costs me nothing. All it costs me is my intellectual property and knowledge that I've built up over the years, and my guts. You notice my sleeves are rolled up and the left one faster. But if you look at the situation today, I want to quote Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. The world is actually in a tale of two cities, where you have the destruction, where Israel is decimating, Iran is decimating Israel, whether you like it or not. Now the same thing is happening in South Africa. We got the DA that insists in white cities, and you have wealth on the one side and poverty. Now Charles Dickens say, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. Now let me give you an example. My hometown, Malmesbury, 8 supermarkets, not one is owned by people of color. Kuils River, where I live, 12 supermarkets, not one owned by. Now we are going to change that narrative, because we've got everything before us, but it was nothing. 4 insurance companies and banks wanted to invest. One of them said, my model is a threat to the big insurance company, and they pulled back. That's fine. So that's why we self-fund. Now I want to quote you from Bishop Desmond Tutu and his daughter Mapo's book, Made for Goodness. In 1985, when many children were shot on the Cape Flats, the Arch said, I'm going to call a march, and everybody said, man, he's mad. He called a march. They thought 1,000 people are going to come. 30,000 picked up. Now if we look at the news today, the news said today that in America, for the first time, the rating poll for Gaza is 41% higher than that for Israel. You notice what is happening with this war. The Western European countries, the African countries, the South American countries, Canada, the Eastern countries are turning against America and Israel. Now the very same thing is happening in South Africa. The DA is bragging about the 300 million development on Strandfontein Pavilion. A few years ago, we were on a bus showing them about what the Mitchells Plain people want to do with the Strandfontein Pavilion. Nothing came out of it. Now that they need votes. But the Victoria and Alfred waterfront is worth about 60 billion. 200 times more. So it relates to, I don't want a Zulu on my stoep. I don't want a colored or black on my stoep. So they actually want to keep the 1 million more coloreds and blacks there in Mitchells Plain and Khayelitsha swimming in that cold sea water, in that strong southeasterly winds, while they've got the foreigners where the properties have now been priced so high that their own people are being hurt. And that is what is happening. Now, as I said, you see now all the products that all the contracts, okay. Now, the thing is, I can predict things. I was tested by one of the biggest insurance companies in 2002. And they said that I think 3 times faster than the normal person. Fine. I predicted in 2010 that we will have by 2023, 2025, a third world war. A war within nations, not between nations, the rich, the poor against the rich. If you look what is happening with the war in Iran, you actually have now got a war between the Muslim nations, the poorer nations against Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, the Emirates and Saudi Arabia. That is what is happening. The same is happening in South Africa. It's not a physical war. It's a war where the marginalized are rising up against the exploitation of the rich. Now, this book of Alex Masodi, called Cultural Evolution. Now, what is happening? If you had to go back about 40 years ago, there was a distinct difference between colours in Joburg, Cape Town, Durban, whatever. Not anymore. It is called pro-social behaviour. They all think alike. What has happened with the whites? They are moving, regressing to cultural barbarism. They're hurting their own middle class people by favouring the foreigners. You also see the DA is now fighting the Freedom Front Plus. For the blacks we must feel sorry. They are only going to get rich by 2030, I actually said 2035, because they're still fighting for political power. Understand that? That is what is happening. And further to this, how can I prove this? The current at a UWC event where they honoured Professor Brian O'Connell, Professor Najabulu Ndebele spoke about the apartheid structure of the city, and I showed him my model. And he said, man, that will destroy the apartheid nature of the city. Now, what is happening in South African towns? The coloured and black dorp is destroyed. Pakistani, Somalis, whatever shops, gone. Can't get it. Forget about that. The white wit dorp is also in its glory. Tidy textiles, Moroccan barbers, the cell phones and that. So we are creating a new town between the coloured black and the white townships to break the apartheid structure of the city. Otherwise, the poverty will persist and insist. If you go into our towns now, you know, some of the areas doesn't look too nice. It has actually regressed if you look at it about 30, 40 years ago. Okay, now how does the revolution take place? The revolution happens when a group that's marginalized becomes strong enough economically and intellectually. Let me give you this way. If you look at in the colored population, we started studying in the 70s. But now you have got people with graduate and postgraduate children that are underemployed or unemployed. Their parents spent all their pension money on their studies, and now they don't even have got money to put them into business. We find, even with me losing 50 million, 8 million, 50 million, because I exposed the non-transformation. Our eldest son has got his own IT company, employed 37 people. Youngest one, doctorate, doing a doctorate in medical virology. His fiancée is a medical doctor. I'm going to set them up in their own healthcare practice. So my family is fine, but I've got a passion for others. So how many people do you need to create an economic revolution? 15% of the nation. Let's analyze that. South Africa, about 6 million coloreds. Then about 1 million of the intermarriage. Now, I'm often seen as white, as the people say, totdat hy sy mond oopmaak. We've had half white and half colored families in apartheid. My father's eldest sister turned white. Her daughter June turned back colored to get married to Zayn Adam. That's the way we roll. And we live, and that we actually the glue that can help with the aspirations of the blacks and allay the fears of the white people. We must bring them together. Then you're going to have 1 million Indians, 2 million whites, and someone said, why 2 million whites? Because the middle class whites are now being decimated by the DA and the new liberal policies and favouring the foreigners. And then 3 million blacks that wants to be part of this group. I was phoned yesterday by brokers I trained in 2009 and said, Leon, we want to join you. We never really thought the predictions that you told us in 2008 and 9 is going to become true. Now, in that, now we got the 15%. Okay. But you need certain personalities. The first one you need is the intellectual. Now, Leon Liedeman is actually the same as Eugene Marais, who brought the Afrikaner factions together in 1933. Then you need activists, like the Khoisan, the First Nation people, and the people from the Sako-Saru areas. Okay. Then important insiders. I don't know if you picked up, there was a photo of Cyril Ramaphosa, Gayton McKenzie, Fadil Adams, Patricia de Lille standing. And the photo depicted unity. Those three parties, with parties like Action, SA, and that, is becoming the biggest. The ANC will join them, and the DA is actually going to sit outside. That is what is happening in South Africa. Then you need disaffected and supportive elites. Disaffected elite is the people that have children that's underemployed and that. The supportive elites is the people that, the children that have got money, doctors and that, and they've got too much to lose if you see what is happening in Israel and Iran. Okay. Then you got artists. Not the singer, not Koos Kombuis, not whatever a singer. It's the person that can take this video and sell it to, and sell the idea to others, can tell the story. So what happens, Ludwig van Mises say, innovation is the whim of the elite before it becomes the need of the masses. So what is happening? The disaffected and the supportive elites provide the money for the matches. For the masses, the poor, to set the fire of economic revolution right. And that is basically how, so what has happened, shifted. Now how are we going to do it? I've divided South Africa in new economic hubs of about 50,000 people covering 12.5 million people. Each will have 2 supermarkets. Now the coloured population in most towns in the Western Cape, Northern Cape, parts Eastern Cape and then in Gauteng, like Eldorado Park and Ennerdale is 100%. Mitchell's Plain is 100%, but in the most 50%. 40% of your coloured population in South Africa and in a town is middle class. Now take a town like Malmesbury, say 50,000. So 25,000 coloureds, 10,000 middle class. There's 5,000 to 6,000 families. So you need 15% of that. Is 1,500 to 2,000 to invest 1,000 rand each. Now how are you going to do that? You divide the town into middle class blocks of 1,000 people, which is 200 families. So if Malmesbury has got 10,000 middle class, you're going to have 10 people that must recruit from 200 families. At least 100 investors to give you 2 million. Okay, so that is basically how you will do it. So how are we going to spend the money? Of the million, 300,000 will be for training my induction manual that I showed you. Then 450,000 goes to Grocom, and 250,000 to 50,000 to 500,000 to set up the local Grocom structures. So that is basically, but each town will need an intellectual, an activist, insider, artists, disaffected and supportive elites and the masses, and that is what is happening. So we intend raising 200 million. 30 million will go for training, 10 million for existing shareholders, 10 million for people that sell investments or whatever, besides the little commission that they get at the end of month one, because commission won't come through, to put some food on the table. 40 million to start our bank, insurance, medical aid and those things. 20 million to buy a property, to set up a smokehouse factory. I want to start smoking salmon. 20 million into my son's IT company. I mean, he's 37, they employ 37 people. 20 million in investment fund, and 20 million to support the activists and also the political parties that are in agreement with the economic revolution, and 30 million in reserves. So if you look at, we've got enough fat in the system to give 250,000 to 500,000 and that. But remember, I said the supermarket wasn't initially part of the plan. That was plan B. So what we plan B going to do, those 200,000 people must invest 1,000 rand per month for 12 months. In Mama's Bread will be 24 million to set up 2 supermarkets if there's 8 others. But with BEE having shifted, we can now get government grants maybe equal to double that amount to then have free grants, not loans, to have the supermarkets up and running. And that is actually the model in short. If you have any misunderstandings, I've got a passion for a more equal society. You can phone me anytime. I like talking to people. 061 372 5215. You notice my sleeves are also rolled up to create a more equal society. Thank you very much.